broadcasting live 4 days a week worldwide
from the sunny beaches of Southern California.
This is ExtremeHealthRadio.com.
This is Dr. Bradley Nelson, author of The Emotion Code, How to Release Your Trapped Emotions for Abundant Health, Love, and Happiness. You're listening to Justin and Kate on Extreme Health Radio. For more information about The Emotion Code, visit ExtremeHealthRadio.com/Emotion Code.
Well, Kate, this is a show that I am so excited about, and we talk to a lot of eclectic, strange individuals, don't we? But yet, this is the show that I am the most excited about, and Dr. Stuart Nunley has probably impacted our life more than any guest that we've ever had on. We are so excited to have him on.
So thrilled. I've been looking forward to this since we left Texas from our last appointments. In March.
It's just incredible.
What a blessing.
Ever since we did that, we put a picture of Dr. Nunley on the right-hand side of our website, and it says, Meet Our Dentist, and there's a link to our first interview with him, and it's just going to be an honor to have him on again. I'm so excited. He is our dentist. This is episode 331 of Extreme Health Radio. For reference, today is Thursday, October 16th, 2014. And if you guys would like to support the show, there's lots of different ways to do that, but if you would like to go through our link on Amazon, anytime you make a purchase, and you can bookmark that link and use it each and every time you buy anything related to your life. Basically, it doesn't have to be about health at all. So if you do that and go through Amazon,
life-related items.
Life-related items. That's typically what people buy on Amazon, isn't it? Things that relate to their life. So if you do that, we'd get a little commission. That would be a great way to support our show. So that would be awesome. And we do broadcast live 4 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, at 9 a.m. Pacific. And if you guys would like to join the chat room, you can do that at extremehealthradio.com /live. And you can join the chat room, get your questions answered, and have a great time in the community of chatters and listeners that are listening live on the show. So we're so excited to have Dr. Nunley on the show. He was on episode 180 back on November 18th of 2013.
Wow.
So this is going to be really exciting. He's a graduate of the University of Texas Health Science Center Dental School in San Antonio. He has an integrative biological dental practice in Marble Falls, which is an amazing place that we had a chance to go to recently. And he holds fellowships in the Academy of General Dentistry and in the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology. He's currently completing a stem cell fellowship in the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. He's a board-certified naturopathic medicine and is board-certified in integrative biologic dental medicine. So he's a busy guy.
And we have a special guest. We are joined also
That's right.
by Dr. Lane Freeman, who you were able to see in 2010 for your mercury removal.
I know. We visited them, and I had all my mercury fillings removed by Dr. Lane Freeman. It was just an incredible experience.
So we get them both.
We get them both. So thank you guys so much for being on the show today. We're so honored that you guys would want to be on. Can you hear us? Uh-oh.
Get to talk to you all today.
Oh, we're so excited.
Having us both.
Oh, we're so excited. Dr. Freeman, I came originally to you in 2010 and I think I had 3 or 4 mercury fillings removed by you, and it was an awesome experience.
Yes, we enjoyed having you here at that time as well.
Yeah, it's an incredible thing. And Dr. Nunley, you know, one of the things that it's interesting when I'm reading your bio and you have all these accolades to your practice and to your work that you do. One of the greatest things and coolest things that I thought was so amazing when I visited you was before you did the dental procedure on me, you sort of do a little prayer with each patient, don't you?
Well, we do. You know, we think it's a real privilege for the fact that God would use our hands to accomplish what He wants to, and so we don't presume to be able to really heal anyone. We feel like God does that, but He likes to use people to do it. So it's a privilege for us, and so we always ask Him to be present when we're doing treatment for our patients.
It's so cool. It's such an awesome thing. And Kate, you had a pretty amazing experience from as a result of having the work done at Dr. Nunley's office.
I sure did. Dr. Nunley, I don't know if you saw an email a while ago I sent, but when you were actually saying a prayer before starting the work that I had of a root canal removal, my gosh, you were so sweet. You were praying as you grabbed my hand, and you noticed that I had these. My thumb seemed to be overtaken by these weird, strange bumps and growths at the time. And you asked me what that was, and I said I didn't know. And you said, well, we're just gonna cover that in prayer. And we started. Well, 2 weeks after the removal of that tooth, I'm not kidding, I'd had those things on my hands for 5 years. Nobody knew what they were, and they completely are gone now, if you can even believe that, which I'm sure you can.
That's great.
It's a miracle.
We'll take that, won't we?
It's a miracle.
Yeah, they're little wart-like things, but she could not get rid of them no matter what she tried, and it was the most amazing thing because here she goes and gets dental work done, and all of a sudden these things go away with doing nothing, and about a couple days, they actually started the process, and 2 weeks later, they were completely gone.
It was unreal.
It's amazing thing.
They didn't jump over to you, Justin, did they?
No, fortunately, I was able to escape when they jumped. But it's amazing, though, isn't it? The how the dental pathology and people with oral health issues, how that translates to physical ailments in the body, isn't it?
Well, it really is. You know, what's so interesting and really sad is the fact that over the years, both the dental and the medical communities have pretty much divorced themselves from one another, and neither has thought that dentistry would cause medical issues, and most people wouldn't think that medical issues or systemic issues could cause dental issues, but the truth of the matter is they interact all the time. And if we're not paying attention to both of them, we're going to miss something. So I think finally more and more people are realizing this connection between the mouth and the rest of the body. It's a huge connection. And so oftentimes we're able to identify things that might be going on systemically as a result of the way the mouth looks and vice versa. So it's time that we do pay attention to it because it can be a huge, huge part of someone's systemic issues, and typically it's just overlooked.
I'm curious, Dr. Nunley, because we've had you on a couple shows where we've kind of heard your backstory, but I'm curious about Dr. Freeman. When you started out practicing, did you start with this more holistic approach, or did you have your own journey into why this was such an important factor in treating people's mouths?
Well, Kate, I was very blessed that when I graduated from dental school, you think you know a lot, and you realize very quickly that there is a lot more to learn. I'm entering my 13th year of practice, and I had actually worked for Dr. Nunley when I was in high school.
Oh my gosh.
Here at this office, so I already was very familiar with the way he took care of his patients and his concern just for health overall. However, I came in graduating from dental school and came in right at about the time that Dr. Nunley was going through his journey with his health issues. And so that allowed me to almost from the very beginning of my practice begin to see how all these things interact. And I didn't have to go through a period of time of practicing without realizing what these issues were with materials and root canals and those kind of things. I was actually educated with that right along with Dr. Nunley as we started to look at the research, and I was able to follow right behind him almost from the very beginning. So it has been just a blessing to have been able to be practicing like that from the very beginning.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is, Kate, see, I got sick, and fortunately, Lane took over the practice, and she's led the charge. The only reason I get more notice than Lane does is because I'm so old, and No, Lane has really been a great leader in this whole field, and she's just a fabulous dentist, and it's been such a privilege to work with her, and quite frankly, she sustained the practice as I recovered back in 2002, so I'll be forever grateful to her.
Dr. Freeman, is it common, you mentioned when you started looking at the research and things with Dr. Nunley early on, is it common for typical sort of conventional dentists to do research? Because I know you guys do a lot of research, and I wonder, with normal dentists, just regular non-biological dentists, do they stay up to date on research, do you think? I know it's just kind of a general question, but I wonder if they keep
it really depends on, I think most dentists would tell you that they do try to look at a lot of research. It just depends on what research you're looking at. If you are taking what is just generally put out there either by the dental schools or the American Dental Association, and you're not looking for yourself at any of those studies to be sure that they are peer-reviewed, that who they're done by, who they're funded by, and looking at those results and really analyzing that yourself, that's where the difference comes in. I do think that there are a lot of well-meaning dentists that really feel like that they have seen or have heard research that supports the way that they practice. But what we've found is that you kind of have to go outside of that status quo and really look at a lot of research and see where it's coming from and look at the background on that to know that you're looking at the correct information.
Do most dentists, do you think that they believe that there's a connection to the oral pathology and the rest of the body, do you think?
I think that they just don't realize how much of a connection there is. There's some basic things that most dentists could agree on as far as the effect of periodontal disease and bacteria in the mouth, being linked to heart disease. That's a long-standing relationship that's been recognized pretty much across the board with dentistry. However, I would say the vast majority at this point still would be pretty hesitant to want to look at the relationship and know the magnitude of the relationship between your oral health and the materials that are in there and the other things like root canals and old extraction sites that can affect patients on a systemic level.
And they seem to be holding on to this root canal idea. It seems to be a practice that, do you ever foresee it going away, or do you foresee it just changing or adapting in terms of conventional dentistry?
I doubt that it'll go away, Justin, because many people seem to tolerate root canals very well. And so everyone is not impacted in the same way. We hear the stories like Kate just told a while ago. We hear those every week because there are people who are truly impacted by the toxicities of root canals, and they'll have some bizarre ailment. I mean, those bumps on Kate's hand were one thing, but we see this all the time, and it's just not uncommon at all that a root canal has been, at least been part of the puzzle in some bizarre systemic issue. And when you look at the data, even the paper that we had published here from our office a couple of years ago, when you look at the data, you see that root canal teeth have this incredible toxicity associated with them because you can't get a root canal system in a tooth sterile. So the bacteria get to have a heyday in a dead tooth and produce toxins that some people seem to be able to handle and others don't. So I think since many people seem to tolerate them well, just like many people tend to tolerate cigarette smoking well and other sorts of toxicities, we won't see it go away quickly.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's funny you said the dental toxicity from root canals, and I pulled up the dental DNA test that you did on my root canal. And oddly enough, the lab director was Dr. Christopher Shade, who's been on our show, which is really cool. But the root or the toxicity, it says the following bacteria were detected in the sample that was submitted for testing, and I think you just did a swipe of my root canal area, and there's about 4 different things, and then on a separate or lab that you sent in, there's one called, I don't even know how to pronounce these things, but they seem to be like they could be really dangerous, these bacteria.
Well, it's interesting. When we did the first DNA study 4 or 5 years ago, and we got the report back, we could hardly believe it. So many of the bacteria we were unfamiliar with, and most times when we remove a root canal tooth and have a DNA study done, either on the tooth or the blood from the socket where the tooth was removed, most times we get quite an array of bacteria back on that study, and many times they're very potent anaerobic bacteria that, again, produce toxins. Bacteria are a problem in themselves, at least some bacteria are, anaerobes in particular, but typically it's the toxins that they produce that are the real issue. So, like, for example, when you have a tetanus infection, that particular bacteria is a bad bacteria, Clostridia tetani, but it's not the tetanus bacteria that's the problem, it's the toxin. And that's true of many, many bacteria. And so we know that those toxins are there, and yet we have these incredible bodies, and oftentimes they protect us from them at a level that we're able to function just fine.
Isn't there a study they did with these toxicities and root canal teeth? Didn't they take the teeth and grind them up, and they gave them to a mouse or something, and the mouse was started to have the same disease process as the original mouse with the bad teeth? Or there's some study that correlates this, isn't there?
There is, this is hard to believe, but these studies were done in the 1920s by I still think maybe the most venerable researcher in all of dentistry and maybe medicine in general, and his name was Weston Price. And Weston realized that the bacteria were a problem, but he developed like very small filters that would filter the bacteria out. In other words, he would remove a tooth from a patient, and he suspected that tooth causing their systemic illness. Mm-hmm. He then cultured the tooth so that he had the bacteria from that tooth, mm-hmm. and then he used a filter to separate the bacteria from the toxins they produced. Mm-hmm. Now, you can imagine in the 1920s how difficult this was, but he did it. And then he would inject those toxins into experimental animals, and those days it was rabbits. And he reported in 2 volumes, 1,200 pages, the effects of injecting these toxins into the animals. Mm-hmm. And he was able to demonstrate that he could reproduce the disease in the animal. And he actually could do it much quicker by just injecting the toxins than he could if he put the bacteria in there.
Oh, my goodness.
So that's the research that you're referring to.
That is just incredible. And this was done in the 1920s?
Well, it was actually published in 1923. It's hard to believe that data, and it's fabulous research. There's never been anyone who's done such painstaking research and duplicated this. And but it's there, and in my opinion, honestly, dentistry has chosen to ignore it, and it's really unfortunate.
Dr. Freeman, do you think that most dentists know who Weston A. Price was?
I would say probably not. I really had not heard his name until I was already out of dental school, and as we began this journey of researching on our own, which is so surprising once you see everything that he did. It's really surprising that name had never come across my radar in school or anything.
That is amazing. How many people do you guys see? I'm sure that most every patient that comes in has a root canal. What do you think the percentages of people walking around with root canals is? Pretty high?
I would imagine that it is pretty high. I really don't have a figure for you on that, but I would say the good majority of patients that we see that come through our office have at least one root canal or have had one in the past that possibly failed or fractured, and they had already had it removed.
Yeah, that's one of the things, issues with root canals, isn't it? Because when you get a root canal, I think they tell you that within 5 or 10 years you're going to need more work, and it's a constantly ongoing process to maintain that, isn't it?
Yes, unfortunately, that is what we see with root canals. Even with someone who may seem to tolerate the root canal itself just fine, because you've now created a dead tooth, that tissue becomes tooth becomes more brittle, so many times you end up with a fracture or some other need that causes that tooth to have to be removed anyway. Or they will sometimes attempt to go back in and retreat the root canal. So a lot of times I'll see patients that have, we both will, that have invested a lot of money in a tooth that is essentially dead and fractured.
Mm.
And there's a really big issue. People don't think about this, but our teeth are really organs. And so when you have a tooth that's dead, that's a big deal, isn't it? It's just sitting in your body.
That's correct. You know, really, the medical community would not tolerate dead tissue in any other part of the body. That's pretty much a standing fact that any place else in the body where you have dead tissue, we recognize the need to remove that as it just isn't compatible with health. And so it really is the same thing when you're thinking about a root canal tooth as far as it being dead tissue.
So, Dr. Lane, if someone has a root canal tooth, that means the tooth is dead. So that means there's no nerve supply to that tooth? Is that generally the idea?
When a root canal is performed, there's a main canal that you can usually see pretty easily on the X-ray. And so if you looked at an X-ray of a root canal treated tooth, you would see that main canal, or on a molar tooth, it may be 3 or 2 canals. Those areas have been cleaned out and filled with different various filling materials. So that main trunk of the nerve is, in fact, cleaned out and removed. Occasionally, you will still have some in all those accessory canals and microscopic tubules. You can have some fine little nerve endings that actually do remain intact, and that is why sometimes a patient will tell us, I had this root canal and it's still hurting, it's still sensitive, and why is that? I thought that the nerve was gone, when in fact, because of all those small accessory canals, you can still have some nerve endings that are actually still active and are painful. So it is essentially, a dead tooth, but you can have occasionally some remaining nerve endings.
Yeah, that's a fascinating thing, because people are walking around with these dead teeth in their heads, and I imagine it's such a strain on their immune system. We're going to take a little bit of a break right now, but when we come back, I want to ask a little bit about cavitations, because I had 4 wisdom teeth removed, I think in 2000, and Dr. Nunley was able to use something called platelet-rich fibrin, PRF, in the extraction to fix the cavitation. So we'll get into cavitations.
And we also have some questions in the chat room about fillings and mercury.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, well, this is good stuff. Hang on tight, guys. We're going to take a little break. This is episode 331 of Extreme Health Radio. So if you guys would like to check out the show notes, we're going to have show notes with Dr. Nunley and Dr. Freeman on this particular page, episode 331. And we're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back right after this. I wanted to tell you about this really powerful and unique product called the Q Laser. Did you know there's over 2,500 peer-reviewed clinical research studies showing the benefits of low-level laser therapy on the body? We had Dr. Larry Lytle on episode 165 talking all about it. Dr. Lytle, what is the Q Laser?
The Q Laser is a light-delivering device, handheld, rechargeable, that is for lay people and professionals, that works at the cell level of the body to restore energy. Since the body is all composed of cells and the cells are composed of atoms, it's good for any and everything in the body. It is especially beneficial for injuries. It will reduce swelling and inflammation before your eyes. Literally, you can have a sprained ankle and fly the laser, and within 30 minutes you can see that the swelling in the ankle has been reduced. Since all disease is inflammatory, you can assume that same process is working if you have some type of intestinal problem. We have pictures of using a heat instrument to diagnose the intestinal inflammation. We can show that intestinal inflammation is pretty much gone within 3 minutes using the Q1000 laser. It's the number one tool in your medicine cabinet. I have a saying, never leave home without your laser. I have had 3 serious burns, and each time I had my laser with me, I applied the laser immediately after I had the burn. I never even blistered.
Kate and I don't want to be without ours. We've worked out a special deal with Dr. Lytle for all of our listeners. If you'd like to learn more about how the Q laser can dramatically improve your health, go to extremehealthradio.com/laser. Did you know that conventional dog food contains antibiotics, herbicides, pesticides, ground up carcasses from roadkill subjected to high heat processing, artificial colors, chemical preservatives, way too many carbohydrates, genetically modified corn syrups, indigestible grains, and a lack of moisture content in the dry kibble? Obviously, this can lead to health conditions like diabetes, itchy skin, teeth and gum problems, liver damage, obesity, behavioral issues, pancreatic problems, and even cancer. That's why we recommend the BARF diet, which is the biologically appropriate raw food diet from Barf World. Their unprocessed raw meats contain bone, organ meats, vitamins, and minerals that are loaded with enzymes. Barf World founder Robert Mueller explains more.
Sure, I don't have to convince you on the damage that's caused by high heat to food. So as a result, we see many skin disorders, a lot of arthritis, obesity, heart disease, cancers. I mean, it's just rampant. The vet clinics are just full of these conditions. And basically a large percentage of the commercial pet food that's made is made up of the human industry leftovers. And the pet food industry makes use of this waste product. And in addition to that, we are subjected to the products coming out of the rendering plants. Garbage in, garbage out. If you feed garbage to your dog, you're going to end up with garbage health. You know, if you put the right gas in, your engine runs smoother and lasts longer. So if you put the right fuel in the tank, you're going to get the right output. Garbage in, garbage out.
We've seen an immense difference with our dog Maggie being on this diet. Give your dog the gift of health today by going to extremehealthradio.com/barf or go to our store. That's extremehealthradio.com/barf to learn even more.
100% listener supported. Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Don't forget to join our thriving community for health tips, inspiration, and show updates at extremehealthradio.com/Facebook.
Fun time here with our biological dentist, Dr. Stuart Nunley and Dr. Lane Freeman. And you can check out their website if you like at healthysmilesforlife.com. And this is episode 331. And just really, really fascinating stuff. And I have to say, if you guys have any dental issues, we live in California and they are in Texas. And I have to say that it was the most beneficial and impactful thing on my life to go and make the investment and go to visit them and get a hotel and stay a few days and get the treatment that you need. I believe they take Care Credit, so you can put this on a Care Credit card, and it's been one of the most impactful things I've ever done for my health, and I just think it's so well worth it. Don't you think, Kate?
Well, I know it is, and for someone who is like myself, who is having a ton of literal organ pain and things going into that trip, it was the trip that changed my life the most. I have seen leaps and bounds in success with reaching my health goals and my blood work coming back more normal. And this was from, one visit to Marble Falls to see Dr. Nunley and Dr. Freeman at the office.
Your life changed after that.
My life completely changed.
Unbelievable.
It's changed my life.
Unbelievable.
Changed my life.
So, Dr. Nunley, I have to ask you, how did you like the barbecue sauce that we got you?
Hopefully he got it.
I hope you got it.
You got it. I am hate.
Oh, when they were here, I think they got it.
Oh, maybe he didn't get it. We sent you some California barbecue sauce in the mail, but maybe you didn't get it.
Maybe you didn't get it.
You know what? I'm thinking we absolutely did not get it because I don't forget barbecue sauce.
Oh, and I was so excited. I found this man that said he had the best barbecue sauce in the world, and he was local, and I sent you a package, but that is very strange.
That is no good.
You know, you can't trust our mailman around here. He loves barbecue more than we do.
Well, I'm going to get another one shipped off because I want to know honestly how you think Californians do barbecue. So.
I hate to tell you that, Kate, but no, we didn't get it because I would have known it.
Well,
my gosh,
that's easy to send another one. I'm more upset that the note I wrote you wasn't received, but I'm going to write you another one.
So, Dr. Nunley, we were talking a little bit before the break. When I got my cavitations removed, when I got my wisdom teeth removed in 2000, when I came to you just recently, you worked on the cavitations that I had as a result of the wisdom tooth extractions, and you were using something called platelet-rich fibrin to help with the healing process of that. What is PRF?
Well, platelet-rich fibrin is a technique where we use the patient's own platelets to help a surgical site heal more quickly. And this technology has been available now for, 10 years. It was developed in France, and actually platelets have been used in surgical procedures for quite a few years now in the States, and most of us know it as platelet-rich plasma, PRP, but there's this new generation of ways to use platelets, and it's called platelet-rich fibrin, and it works best for us in dentistry to use this technique. And basically what we do is we typically have our patients sedated when we do surgery with an IV, and while the patient is sedated, we'll draw several other tubes of blood, and we spin that down in a centrifuge, and we're able to collect the platelets in truly a fibrin matrix. And so this little plug full of platelets has white blood cells and fibrin in it, and we're able to press that into a little sheet or a plug, and we can press that then into the a wound. So if we're cleaning out a cavitation, and a cavitation is a hole in the jawbone, typically where a tooth has been removed in the past, it's a hole that's it's really equivalent to a little cesspool because it's filled with anaerobic bacteria. And we clean those out. We make an incision over them. We open those up, and we clean those out. And then we're able to take the platelets, the platelet-rich fibrin technique, and press those into the site. And so now, and then we close that tissue back up, and rarely now do we even need sutures because the platelet matrix knits all of that together so beautifully. And now we have a wound that's filled with the patient's own platelets, own DNA, and platelets are a marvelous little creation. They not only help us clot, but what they do, maybe even more importantly, is they release growth factors. And so those platelets are known to release growth factors, in fact, for the next 2 weeks. And they will recruit all kinds of wonderful little beneficial compounds to the area to cause that to heal. In the past, the problem has been that cavitation surgeries could relapse. In fact, there are 12 studies to determine how often they relapsed, and in those studies, 40% of them relapsed. But we believe that this platelet technique is a real game changer. We've always followed a strict protocol with high doses of vitamin C and a number of other things that we do to try to promote acupressure and all sorts of things we could do to try to increase our the rate of healing and the longevity of the healing, but we think the platelets are probably the biggest thing.
Isn't that wild?
We have a question here in the chat room going along with this. Dr. Freeman, do you get cavitations from just wisdom tooth extraction, or is it any tooth that's been extracted in the mouth? And if everyone has had wisdom teeth, for a person who has had the wisdom teeth extracted, does that automatically mean that there are cavitations there?
Good question.
Yeah.
So that is a very good question. No, it is not just wisdom teeth sites that can have a cavitation. You can develop a cavitation in the bone in any area where a tooth is removed. We can check any site in the mouth where a tooth has been removed, where perhaps infection was left in there, or just perhaps the bone just had a hard time healing there. And so on the outside, everything, the gum tissue looks healthy and there is no pain, when in fact on the when you dig a little deeper under the tissue after we make an incision, you actually find this area in the bone that is cavitated. So that can occur anywhere.
Okay.
The second part of that question, if you have had your wisdom teeth out, there is a possibility that you have a cavitation in one or all of those sites, but not automatically. It all has to do with how that area has healed.
So that's part of what they talk about, Dr. Freeman, that Huggins 3-mile rule, where typically if you have a tooth extracted, you don't want to be driving in a car, or you don't want to be jumping up and down, or and typically I think with conventional dentists, they don't really apply those principles. So if someone does get a tooth extracted, lots of times that site won't heal correctly, right?
That's correct. There can be any number of factors that affect the healing, but that is one of the most important ones, is that we want our patients, after we have removed a tooth or cleaned out a cavitation site, that clot, we always tell patients that clot is just going to be their best friend. It's the baby that we want to take care of. It's so important for that clot to stay solid within that socket so that it can give that site the best opportunity to heal properly. And things like driving, just the vibration of a car for a distance of more than about 3 miles or so can contribute to that clot becoming less stable, as would jumping around or anything like that.
Might not be the best time to go to a trampoline party after a extraction.
A marathon.
Jess in the chat room also asked when she had her 4 wisdom teeth pulled and developed dry sockets. They wondered if you could explain that a bit, what those are.
Okay, what a dry socket basically is when you lose that clot. And the reason that is so painful is because when that clot falls out or dissolves away, now you have just these exposed bony walls of that socket, and it is very painful because there's no protective covering over those. That's another thing that clot provides, is a protective covering as that's healing. So if you had a dry socket in that wisdom tooth site, there is possibly a greater chance that you would have a cavitation there, because the body wouldn't have had that clot in place for a very long period of time to encourage the proper healing there.
That makes sense. That completely makes sense.
And Dr. Nunley, it's this PRF is pretty fascinating stuff, isn't it? Aren't they using it on burn victims and using it in lots of different ways, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely, because platelets don't care whether they're in soft tissue like skin or in bone. Mm-hmm. Wherever they're placed, they know what to do, and they recruit other little molecules and cells like stem cells to the area to cause the healing. So you get a much better healing response. A dear friend of mine is a thoracic surgeon, and when they do open heart surgeries, they now always place platelets back into the sternum, into the skin, into the area where the incision was made, in order to get a more rapid healing response. So I think over time we'll see more and more people using platelets, and I love it, because I really don't want to put anything other than someone else's own DNA into them. Mm-hmm. And when we graft or put platelets into an extraction site, we just get such a beautiful healing response. The bone heals, the tissue above it heals. Typically, when we see patients the next day at a 24-hour postoperative visit, they look like they've been healing for several days, 3 or 4 days. And so I think it's one of those things that we're most excited about. We've been using them now almost 2 years, and we wouldn't dream of practicing without it.
Yeah, it probably is a great way to prevent that dry socket that we were just talking about, and promote just quick healing. Because when you guys installed the PRF into the sockets for my wisdom teeth, I felt like the healing was just super fast. It was really, really quick.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when you mentioned a little while ago about the sedation, can you, Dr. Nunley, talk a little bit about the people might be concerned about going under, and what's used, what you guys use in terms of the safety of the drugs that are used when people go under?
Sure. Well, let me just back up by saying when we do a sedation for a patient, the patient still has all of their own protective reflexes. This is not a general anesthesia like you would expect for a major surgical procedure in an operating room, but this would be more like what you would expect if you had a colonoscopy or something of that sort, where it's definitely delivered intravenously, and the drugs that are used most often are called Versed, which is the anti-anxiety agent, and the other one is fentanyl, which is a narcotic. Mm-hmm. But those two drugs are used probably more than any other drugs in sedation in the world because they're the two safest known drugs for sedating a patient, mainly because they both have a reversal agent, which is unusual. In other words, if a patient were to have some sort of bizarre reaction to these drugs, the reversal agent can be given in the same IV, and within 30 to 90 seconds, the patient is completely over it and awake. And so there's a wide margin of safety with the drugs, and the reversal agents really make them desirable to use. And the neat thing about these drugs is that, first of all, patients feel hardly anything, if anything, and they don't remember anything during the procedure. And so all of the little excitatory compounds that we secrete when we're anxious go away. And I think that patients heal much better when they're sedated. And so probably 99% of the patients that we see, especially if we're doing surgery, are sedated.
Yeah, that's
Dr. Nunley, I remember you laughed at me because you said you thought I'd be a cheap date to put out, and I was talking, and you had the hardest time getting me out, and I think you said it was probably because I was kind of nervous going into it. Does that play a big part into getting the person to a level where they're comfortable?
Yeah, Kate, we had to reorder drugs just to make up for all those that we used on you. We're just now catching up a year later.
Oh, man.
Oh my gosh, you cost
thousands
of dollars in business.
It's interesting. People respond so differently. Yesterday I had a large man, 200-pound man, mm-hmm. and honestly, Kate, I probably used 1/4 of the drugs on him that I did on you, and he slept like a baby.
Wow.
Now, it's just very, very interesting the way some of us respond to these drugs. Some of us are, just respond with just a little tiny bit, and others of us metabolize the drug so quickly that we have to use a little more. So the neat thing is, of course, when we're sedating a patient, of course we've been trained in this, but these patients are on a monitor just like you'd be in a hospital room. We're doing a continuous EKG and monitoring their blood oxygen levels, and so there's a whole lot going on here.
Yeah.
And we're able to tailor the amount of medicine that we use in the IV to the patient.
Yeah, it was funny. I felt very comfortable, which was funny that it actually took so much to put me out, because I thought that's the most comfortable I've ever been at a dentist, so I must have been hyped up. Right before the commercial, because we know Dr. Freeman's time is limited and she has to go see a patient, but there's one question for her in the chat room before we let her go, if that's okay?
Yes.
Great. There's a friend in the chat room that says that they assume that it's because they're in a position right now where they cannot afford yet to get the mercury taken out the correct way. They assume that it's safer to obviously leave the mercury fillings in place until they can get it done right, rather than getting a cheap fix and getting them taken out wrong. So since this is this person's situation, they're wondering if that's true, first of all, and if so, what are some ways that they could possibly, a person could detox mercury on a daily basis to not absorb any more into their system and tax it any further?
Very good question, and yes, that is correct in assuming that it would be better to wait until you can have your fillings removed properly. One thing to know is that you don't have to have the fillings, if you have multiple fillings, they don't have to be removed all at one time to be done properly. You can remove just one or two fillings at a time and still do it properly. We see quite a few patients, that are able to do everything at one time, but we also see quite a few patients who maybe we just do one filling every 6 months or every year until they finally have replaced all of those. And so the main concern is, though, to have it done properly, because if it's done improperly, you will get a huge dose of mercury into your system, because you would be inhaling and swallowing a lot of that material as that filling is removed without any protective protocol in place.
Right.
And you guys have... sorry.
Go ahead.
No, you guys have a really incredible protection protocol, don't you, that you use when you remove... Because when you removed my mercury, you guys were going through all these steps and how to do it correctly and putting in these dental dams and all these things.
That's correct. We always want to isolate. Our whole goal is to protect the patient as well as ourselves and our staff. But in protecting the patient, we have a few different layers of protocol that we use. One of the most important is the use of a rubber dam that actually isolates the teeth that we're working on with the mercury fillings from the rest of the mouth. We use a lot of water so that we can direct, as we're removing that mercury filling, we can direct that residue directly into our high-speed suction. We also protect the patient with a large dose of vitamin C, which is most often delivered intravenously. And then we encourage the body to detox if we've removed a lot of fillings by still using acupressure and those things. Things that you can do at home are to increase your vitamin C intake. And if you have access to IV vitamin C, that's good as well. The one thing you have to be careful when you still have mercury in your mouth, you have to know that that's continually coming off of there. So you will be kind of in a continuous detox and refill state. And so you don't want to do any heavy detoxing because you would be continuing to pull off that mercury from those fillings as well. But things like sweating, which are easy to do in Texas, but you can also use a sauna and walking, exercise, those kind of things, encouraging the body to sweat or other ways that you can encourage some detox procedures.
That's wonderful.
What about zeolites? Are those good for removing heavy metals and things?
Yes.
Yeah, zeolites. Yeah, we heard a lot about zeolites and how they're able to pull heavy metals. Yeah, fascinating stuff, because you really don't want to have this mercury. You want to have more leaving your body. So sweating, vitamin C, zeolite. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else we're missing. Yeah, there's probably...
There are a number of ways to help detox. I like what you just mentioned, and Lane's exactly right. I think sweating is one of the most gentle and easiest ways to detox. But then, any of the cruciferous vegetables also are helpful. So broccoli is helpful. Greens like chlorella and cilantro are helpful. Just basically a healthy diet and lifestyle allows us to detox.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
A lot of people use clay, like bentonite clays and these rare earth clays to detox too. We're going to take a little bit of a break right now. We're with Dr. Stuart Nunley and Dr. Lane Freeman from Healthy Smiles for Life.
And we're sure, Dr. Freeman, you need to go back to work. Is that correct?
I hope.
I do. I so appreciate you having me join you today.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I will let y'all finish up with Dr. Nunley. Have a great day.
Okay, thanks,
you
Doc.
as well.
And this was not planned, but we're going to run a little commercial here for the sauna. This was completely
Nice.
just random, but it just came up this way. So
Awesome.
we're going to be right back right after this break. Kate and I have had our sauna for about a year now, I'd say, when we first got it from Phil Wilson. And it's an incredible machine. We use ours about every single day. Kate sits in about 20 minutes, and I sit in there about for a half hour. Usually watch a documentary, and it's extremely relaxing. It's really, really incredible machine. And if you go to extremehealthradio.com/sauna, you can learn all about it. We did an entire hour interview with Phil Wilson. You can check that out. You can look at the pictures of us with it. You can watch videos on that page. It helps you to sleep really, really well. You can lose a lot of weight with it. You can burn, I think, around 600 calories in about 20 minutes or so. It improves your skin, increases circulation all over the body, and circulation is critical for your health. You can prevent and reverse diseases with it if you have a cold or flu. It's incredible. It heats you down to the core. It heats 4 to 6 inches inside your body, so it's really incredible. And a lot of people use it for cancer as well. So if you have any kind of incurable, quote, disease, you can use it for that. And Dr. Shade is the foremost authority on detoxification. And listen to what he says about it.
How do I detoxify from plastics? I mean, you guys are using a sauna, and what does a sauna do for us? A sauna is great. It's moving a number of different toxins. Remember, we talked about the mice that if you put PCBs in there, then that made the mercury all that much worse. And sweating moves out a lot of plastics, volatiles, fat-based toxins. It's really good at moving those out, sweating those out. So that's how you're getting those out, and those are contributing to this synergistic soup inside the body. And so that's why they're good, is they're taking out a bunch of the different things in the soup.
And Daniel Vitalis, one of our favorite guests. What do you have to say about the sauna?
When you go into the sauna, like a far-infrared sauna like you discussed, your body goes into a deep relaxation mode, and your sympathetic nervous system shuts down and your parasympathetic nervous system turns on. And when that's active, that's the nervous system, part of your nervous system that's active when you meditate. That becomes active and your detoxification pathways open up wide. Why is this important? It's important because when you go running and you sweat, you're not necessarily eliminating very much toxicity from your body. But when you sweat in the sauna, you eliminate a lot of toxicity from your body. So sweating in a relaxed state is how we eliminate. The other thing is that what's wonderful about the sauna is that it puts you in a parasympathetic nervous system response, like as if you were meditating. So it's almost a hack. It's like a trick to get yourself into a meditative, relaxed state, to decompress stress, to reverse the effects of stress, and to get your body eliminating deep, deep toxicity that's stored in your body fat because it can come out in the oils of your skin. So I think, sauna is one of the most crucial detoxification, really health practices that we can take on, especially in this era of heavy toxicity, particularly fat-soluble toxins.
This sauna is really, really great. They offer payment plans because if you buy it through PayPal, it's 100% secure. You don't even need a PayPal account. I think you could do a payment plan through PayPal. It's got low EMF electromagnetic fields coming off of it. It's portable, so that means you don't have to knock down a wall in your house. You can just move it from room to room. It sets up in about 2 to 5 minutes. It's super easy to clean. All you got to do is wipe it down when you're done and wipe the neck down. And it produces energy and heat inside very, very evenly throughout the whole machine. All you have to do is sit in there for about 15 minutes a day. And the great thing I like about it too is it requires zero preheating. So you turn it on and you're starting to get warm and you're starting to detoxify with that far infrared light almost immediately. So it's really great. It comes with a 1-year warranty. It's about $990 plus $25 shipping. And that's really, really a good deal because if you look at most of the regular saunas out there, they are in the $2,000 to $4,000 range. So this is really, really a good deal. So check it out, extremehealthradio.com/sauna.
Free. All 3 shows, all the time on Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Join our community today. Sign up to our email list and instantly get our free gift to you, along with loads of inspirational content and cutting-edge tips to help change your life at extremehealthradio.com/subscribe.
right, we're having such a great time here with Dr. Elaine Freeman. She actually had to go back and see some patients, but we have Dr. Stuart Nunley on, and just having a great time. And if you guys would like to keep up to date with all of our shows, we do so many shows, and there's so much going on here. The best way to stay up to date would be to sign up to our newsletter list. Tomorrow we have our Free for All Friday show, which we do every Friday, and we recap what's going on with our previous guests and talk about upcoming shows and what's going on in our lives with our health challenges. Next week we have Anne-Marie Gianni. She's going to be talking about natural holistic skincare. Possibly Nick Pelosi from Sacred Science is going to be on and doing some great things. Dr. Gary Gordon and Alicia Diaz talking about the Ayurvedic diet. So lots of great stuff. The best way to stay up to date is just to sign up to our newsletter list. We'll send you a free ebook, Lessons from the Miracle Doctors by John Barron, which sells for $20 on Amazon. And we'll send it to you right away if you sign up. And then you can keep up to date with everything that we have going on. And Kate, I think you had a question.
Yeah. Dr. Nunley, before we went into the break, we were talking a bit about mercury and removal and sorts. For someone like myself who was unfortunately exposed to probably quite a bit of mercury when I had my mercury fillings taken out in a non-protected way, how does someone know when they've gone about detoxing enough? Is there a way to actually tell when that mercury has all left your body, if that's even possible to reach that point?
I think Chris Shade has the best test for that.
Oh,
and Chris he's a brilliant PhD, and his dissertation was in mercury, and I think it was primarily in mercury spills in the environment, and he's become very interested in its impact on humans and animal life. I think his particular test, he has a patented test that not only it'll not only tell you the total body burden of mercury, but it also differentiates the two different types of mercury that we think of most often in the body, one of it being in the ionic form, which we think of it having come from our fillings, and the other form being the methylated mercury, which we think more often has come from fish. So I like his test. It's a simple blood test, and you get back quite a bit of data from doing that simple test. He actually does hair, urine, and blood to determine the results from that test.
And is that something, obviously, people can go online and search for, and it's probably on his site?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. It's the name of his laboratory, it's in Colorado, and it's Quicksilver Laboratory. And
great.
He has a wealth of information, by the way, on his website. I'm not sure. It may be quicksilver.com.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think Justin just posted it in the chat so people can check that out. That is great information.
And Dr. Nunley, I wanted to ask you, if someone has issues with, let's say they have quite a bit going on in their mouth. Let's say they have some mercury fillings and they have a couple root canals and things. If they were to come visit you, where do they start? Did they start with the root canals, or did they start with getting the mercury fillings taken out, or is that done on a case-by-case basis?
It's case by case, and most patients that are referred to us, Justin, the patients are coming from long distances, and typically we do everything at one visit. And, of course, they're supported well, and we use a strict protocol to get this done and make sure that they do well. But I've always felt like if you had a toxicity issue, that it would be great to get it all out at one time and just give the immune system a jump start and the ability to not have to contend with that. So, and I think most of the physicians and healthcare people around the country who refer to us feel that same way. So as long as the patient is being well protected so that we're not exposing them to more mercury, and we're doing our surgical procedures in a very careful way, I think that patients do better, quite frankly, when everything is removed at one time. Now, that's obviously they're sedated, because I wouldn't want to. I don't think it's a good idea for anyone to sit with his or her mouth open for hours to have procedures done unless they're asleep.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think that there are different protocols or different things people can do leading up to the surgery or to their visit with you where they could minimize or sort of mitigate any of the Herxheimer effects or detox reactions that they might get from getting so much work done in one visit, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, so many of our patients come from such skilled healthcare providers, nutritionists and naturopaths and wonderful MDs and DOs. We have so many, and we have so many wonderful chiropractors that have just great knowledge in trying to support a patient's health before they get here. So we love to see those patients when they've already been bolstered by whatever the referring healthcare practitioner has done to help them. That's our favorite. Sometimes patients come and they haven't had anyone helping quarterback their health and they're struggling, and I think it's more difficult then. But even those wonderful patients, oftentimes with all the supportive things we do here, they'll make it just fine through the procedure. So I like to see patients, who have been seen for some time in the past by a healthcare provider who has done blood work on those folks and has been able to get their immune system in good, strong working order.
Yeah, and it seems to make sense too that you'd also want to make sure that your organs are functioning properly and your channels of elimination, your lungs, your liver, things like that. Because even with all of the best ways and protocols that you guys can use, it still could be a burden. Because I've heard people have, their life changes after this stuff, and for if you're really, I guess, if your body's not functioning properly, I could see how these toxins would have a difficult time getting out once the procedure was done.
Well, you're right, and most of the detoxing by the body of dental toxicities is done through the liver, and most of those sorts of toxicities are excreted in the feces, but also a significant part is done by the kidneys. So we want to see, we want to especially see those two organs working well.
Mm.
Yeah, at your office, you definitely don't leave any stone unturned because of the aftercare with the acupressure sessions. Does every patient that you see with extractions or surgery of any kind receive the acupressure, and what is the benefit of that if people don't know?
Yeah, acupressure, well, here's the great benefit, is right after the surgical procedure. It's so nice to awaken to the gentle touch of a skilled acupressurist.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
An acupressurist is skilled at opening up those channels, those electrical pathways in our body, which acupuncturists are most known for really knowing, but an acupressurist does much of the same thing that an acupuncturist would, but does not use the needles.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like both. I love a great acupuncturist. We happen to use acupressure in the office. And so, number one, keeping the patient nice and still after a surgical procedure and waking up to acupressure, I think, is a fabulous way for them to heal.
Yeah.
And then we know that things like cavitated areas in the jawbones, dead teeth, scars, all of those things interrupt the normal electrical pathways that we have in us. And so if we can get someone to help us jumpstart and reboot those pathways, the healing is enhanced tremendously. I've gotten to the point where I wouldn't do surgery without an acupressurist or an acupuncturist. They are able to eliminate pain afterwards. It's very rare, honestly, that we even need pain medications after surgery,
mm-hmm.
Because the acupressurists do such a great job.
Yeah, when I came to see you recently, I had the option of using Tylenol or pain medication afterwards, and I went all 4 days and didn't need any of it. I just felt I didn't feel any pain. I didn't feel it was just a little bit uncomfortable getting used to the extraction, but it was just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It was surprising. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think is. Most often, that's the response. Now, when I had my wisdom teeth removed, I thought I was bulletproof at 19 years old, so I went country western dancing that night, and I paid the price.
Really?
So, yeah, absolutely. And so I don't want that for my patients. We encourage them to either stay in a hotel close by or get home if they're real close by, and rest and let those areas have an opportunity to heal.
What are your thoughts about implants in the future of where we're going with stem cells and the possibility to regrow teeth? And some people are talking about the ability to regrow teeth. Previously I heard that there's the option of regrowing just enough of a tooth to put a crown on there, but I've heard recently that people are talking about the possibility of being able to grow an entirely new tooth. Is that possible, do you think?
Absolutely. And I've been telling people that, 5 years ago I was telling people that I thought by now we would have that protocol completely developed and we would be regrowing teeth with their own stem cells. And we're not quite there yet, but I hope that certainly within 5 years that will be the reality. So where are we now with the implants? I personally am not fond of titanium implants. Mm-hmm. Many people seem to tolerate them very well, but I happen to see a group of people that many of them don't tolerate them well. And it's easy to understand because when you embed something that doesn't have your own DNA in the bone, your body will mount some kind of an immune response to it. And some people do not tolerate titanium all that well. And most titanium implants are alloyed with other metals, and some of those I'm not fond of at all, especially aluminum. Mm-hmm. And so what you may think is a pure titanium implant may not be. It may have other metals in there, and those metals don't stay in there. They tend to migrate out into the tissues.
And then
I'm not... Go
ahead. I'm sorry. And then anytime you have those metals in your mouth, are you not creating some sort of flow or current of electricity in the mouth as well?
Well, you are. You are, for sure. And those are called galvanic currents, and they've been written about in the literature for many, many years, not so much in the last few years, but there's much in the literature about galvanic currents and their deleterious effects on those natural currents that we have in us. Mm. So I think that's certainly another consideration, and acupuncturists would be the first and acupressurists would be the first to concur that that's not a great idea. The other implant that does, I think, seem to make more sense is the zirconia implant, and because it's much more inert than is the titanium. It does not produce the current that a titanium implant does, and I believe that the tissues, bone and gum tissue, seem to tolerate it very well. Now, I'll have to tell you, Justin and Kate, I see a group of patients, most of whom either are not well or have not been well, and we're not wanting to do anything that might in any way challenge their immune system. Mm-hmm. So there are people in this world who simply do not want to go without teeth. And if you had a robustly healthy person, man or woman, and they were just totally opposed to go to having some little removable appliance, then in that case, I would be recommending a zirconia implant. But it just doesn't happen very often in our practice because of the group of patients that we see.
It seems like it would behoove people to sort of get that removable implant and wait, a specific amount of time, hopefully 5 years, and see if something happens with the stem cells, wouldn't it?
Well, that's the way I lead folks. I would, especially if they've had any history of autoimmune issues, is just to have a nice little removable appliance, and then hopefully in a few years we'll be regrowing teeth with your own stem cells.
Is there any issue with the removal of teeth and their and how that affects the structure of the jaw?
Well, there is. First of all, I think we want to do the removal of the teeth as conservatively as possible. I mean, we want to try to preserve as much surrounding bone as possible as to serve as a matrix for the new bone to grow in. But on the flip side of that, when an infected tooth is removed, the bone immediately surrounding the tooth is also infected. We've demonstrated this many times by sending samples of that bone in either for a DNA analysis or for a toxicology report, and that surrounding tissue comes back just as infected as the tooth. So when we do remove a tooth, we want to make sure that we clean that out as well, the surrounding tissue. And interesting, of course, I didn't know to do this for the first 20 years of my practice. And it's so interesting to see when we clean that area out around an infected tooth, how much quicker that site heals. And of course, when you clean that out, plus introduce their own platelets into that site through the platelet-rich fibrin technique, then you just get this magnificent healing response.
How do you use ozone? Do you use ozone in your dental practice? Is that correct as well?
We do. Yeah, we're fond of ozone. And so we use it in all sorts of ways. Hardly a patient goes through here that doesn't get a little ozone. And our hygienists love to use ozone because it's so effective at cleaning up the bacteria that cause periodontal disease and cause periodontal inflammation. So they literally use a tiny little syringe of ozone around each and every tooth and bubble that under the gum line as part of their therapy. So that's one way we use it. Another way we use it is we can inject it into the tissue around an infection. So let's just assume that we're removing an infected tooth. We can, prior to that extraction, we can inject the ozone around that area, and it will help eliminate the bacteria substantially before we go in and take care of it surgically. So we think ozone is just one of those marvelous things. Of course, we also ozonate all of the water that's used in our office, so that the lines that go through our systems, that go through all of the little mechanical systems in our office, don't build up a biofilm. And there's just ozone has so many uses in dentistry and elsewhere.
That's fascinating.
Ozone. Who would have
so
thought?
Great. What are your thoughts about reversing cavities or remineralizing your teeth? I know a lot of people are dealing with these types of issues, maybe cavities that are growing, and people that are hip to health and understand that cavities can sort of ebb and flow, and these things can be reversed. Do you have any ideas about how people could do that?
I do, and I've seen this certainly. I think large decayed areas that's difficult and maybe impossible to really reverse. I think you can arrest them. You're still going to be left with a hole in the tooth, but it is possible to arrest even large areas of decay. And here's how you do it. One is through a healthy lifestyle, because the healthier our lifestyle, the greater chance we have that the fluid that moves in and out of a tooth will be helpful in this. For example, and this study was done many years ago at Loma Linda University by a wonderful dental researcher by the name of Steinman. He determined when people were living a healthy lifestyle, many times their blood chemistry in particular their phosphorus levels in their blood chemistry, would be at 3.5 or above. And he determined when that was the case, the fluid flow went from within the tooth through the dentin and out the enamel. In other words, the tooth was self-cleansing. There was a fluid flow that went from inside the tooth to the outside. Mm-hmm. Whereas when people were on what we would think of as a standard American diet today, the fluid flow is much more prone to go from outside the tooth in. And in that case, you're much more prone to decay, and you're much more prone to have a phosphorus level in your blood chemistry that's below 3.5. So, number one, a healthy diet and lifestyle is very helpful. Number two, there are ingredients. There's a particular paste called MI paste that has just calcium and phosphorus in it. You want to be careful, to not, in my opinion, to not get the MI paste that has fluoride in it. But I would get the calcium and phosphorus MI paste and literally saturate that tooth several times a day with the paste to get the calcium and phosphorus to reabsorb into the tooth. And then I have seen patients definitely remineralize their teeth to where it was not necessary to do a filling.
Wow, isn't that fascinating? What about people talk a lot about the fermented cod liver oil, the butter, high vitamin butter oil, and the stuff that's recommended by Weston Price and Ramil Nagel and people like that. What are your thoughts about those foods? Do you think they're pretty good?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And fermented foods to me, and of course butter, those are near and dear to my heart.
We're speaking your language, aren't we?
Oh, yeah, you're all over it. So I'm gonna, I haven't had my whole stick of butter yet today, but I'm
right after your whole bottle of guzzling barbecue sauce, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's it.
I wonder if there's any issue. We had what was his name? We had Professor Brian Peskin, and he was talking about the dangers of fish oil. Do you think there's any issues with like the cod liver oil and the fish oils that he talks about, or would those want to be...
You mean because of mercury content, or...?
Yeah, I'm not sure. He talks about how it prevents the oxygen transfer and through the cell membrane and things like that, but I wonder if there's an issue there.
Brian Peskin's a sharp man, and he knows a lot about omega-3s, fish oils, and here's what I have come to believe over the years. When there is a lot of research to demonstrate the benefits of, for example, fish oil, and there's just a little bit to demonstrate, possible health issues, deleterious health issues associated with it. I'm gonna go with the side where the most research is. Mm-hmm. The most research, to me, demonstrates that fish oils can be very helpful. It's not. And now this is on an individual basis too, Justin, because there are some people that apparently are impacted by too much fish oil, and there's been, for example, a study that demonstrated an increase in prostate cancer. Mm-hmm. Well, there are many, many other studies that demonstrate the incredible benefits of fish oil, cognitive health, and so forth. So, personally, I take a tablespoon a day, and I think it's one of the most beneficial supplements I take.
And what are your thoughts about people doing, there's a lot of stuff going around where people are using ground up and sort of powdered eggshells for their tooth remineralization. Have you ever experienced people using those?
Never. I honestly am not aware of that, but once again, you're getting a high source of calcium and phosphorus there, so I can imagine that maybe it would be helpful, but to tell you the truth, you're the first to tell me of it.
Interesting. Very, very.
This is kind of skipping around, but I have a quick question for Dr. Nunley.
Sure.
Is that okay? Dr. Nunley, with people like myself who've gotten a tooth extracted and haven't, got a retainer to kind of hold that space, is there any danger in teeth at this age shifting around? Is that something people need to be worried about if they have just empty spaces and haven't chosen to get a replacement in there?
They can, Kate. Sometimes teeth interdigitate. In other words, sometimes the upper and lower teeth interdigitate so well that having a tooth extracted the teeth won't shift because they kind of lock in like a set of gears with the lower teeth when you close, and that holds them in place.
Wow.
Sometimes, even interestingly enough, sometimes the tongue will somewhat fill in that space and keep teeth from shifting.
Wow.
But most times I would say teeth do begin to migrate somewhat. And so typically I'll tell someone if they've had a tooth removed that it would be best within the next year. The teeth are going to move just slightly, probably not enough for the patient to notice it, but it would be best in the next year to get some sort of little appliance put in there. It could just be a little removable appliance to hold the teeth in position.
That's a good thing, because I have a lot of people after we shared our story of visiting you that have written to me saying, what have you put in its place? What have you put in its place? What are you going to do? And I said, to be honest, I don't know. I'm going to have to consult Dr. Nunley, because I don't know if that's a really important thing. If teeth are shifting, I mean, I'm sure if they're shifting a lot, which doesn't sound like the case, then you have more of an issue. But to get something in there is what I've been wanting to do anyway. So I will have to post that in a blog to people so they know what's up with that.
Exactly. And, there are some wonderful materials now, biocompatible materials. When we test people with a serum test, there are some wonderful materials that I think you can feel very good about using to replace those, and they're aesthetic. No one would know that you had lost a tooth. You'll know it because you're going to have a little removable appliance in there that you have to pop out and clean.
Right.
But otherwise, they're effective. They're non-invasive. We don't have to grind down the adjacent teeth in order to make it. So I like those little appliances until we get stem cell therapy and we're growing the teeth back.
Well, in all your extra time, Dr. Nunley, you better jump on that because I'm waiting for you.
Okay.
So, Dr. Nunley, just a final question, because I know you have to run and you want to enjoy your day off. But is there an issue with people who have perhaps root canals? They've had X-rays and the X-rays don't show anything. And a lot of times, I may be mistaken on this, but the X-rays of a root canal don't typically or don't always show any pathology. Is that correct?
Well, many times they don't. But we know, and I'm saying this very boldly, and because I published a paper on this where I removed what appeared to be perfectly healthy-looking root canal teeth and submitted those for toxicology reports, and they all turned out to be anything but healthy. So we know that the X-ray of a root canal tooth does not determine whether the treatment has been successful. That's what we've always used in the past to determine. This is how we determine whether a root canal was successful. Does it hurt? And does it look good on an X-ray? And I can understand that. I used that myself for years when I did root canal therapy. But when you look at the toxicology of a tooth, you'll realize that those are not good measures of success, not when they continue to harbor bacteria and toxins. So there's another way today, Justin, that's used, and many of us now have what are called cone beam, or they're truly a CAT scan technology that we can use for the jaws. And many, many times an X-ray, a traditional X-ray of a tooth, when you look at it with a cone beam, will show that tooth has disease or pathology that we couldn't see with the X-ray. But the cone beam or CAT scan allows us to look at the tooth from all directions. And when we do that, most of the time we can find some sort of pathology that we couldn't see on the X-ray.
And what types of pathology will show up, or have you seen with using the cone beam, do you think?
Yeah, when we use the cone beam, what we can see are cysts. A cyst would be one of the body's natural ways to help protect us against infection, where we develop a little lining, almost like a balloon, oftentimes at the tip of the root to try to encapsulate the bacteria. We can see other things like fractures in the roots that we would not have seen with the traditional X-ray. And then oftentimes it's not just a cyst, but we can see on the back side of a tooth that we couldn't see with a traditional X-ray, maybe a large cavitated area where literally the bone has been infected with the bacteria, and now you have an area where you don't have good, strong bone. In other words, it's been eaten away very much like we would think termites would do. And the cone beam is very, very helpful for us to be able to see these.
Isn't that fascinating? Wow.
Who knew there was so
Dentistry
much involved in that?
Yeah, it's really a growing science that seems to be, you seem to be on the cutting edge, and you do a lot of research, and you're learning about different protocols and different things all the time. It seems to be something that if you're on the cutting edge like you are, there's lots to learn, whereas in conventional medicine, even conventional dentists, they seem to be stuck in lack of research and things like this. And so it seems like every time we talk with you, there's new things that you've just been discovering.
Well, we want to publish on this too. We hope very much to have a study done in the near future where we'll show the traditional radiographic appearance, the traditional X-ray of a tooth, and how it looks. It looks fine on that X-ray. But when we have a cone beam of that same tooth, we're going to demonstrate how often. We don't know yet what that percentage is, but I think it's going to be way more than 50% of the time we'll be able to demonstrate that the tooth is not healthy, that there is a lesion of some sort associated with the tooth that we couldn't see from traditional X-ray.
Wow.
We had a chat room, just not a question, but a comment saying that you seem to know more than anyone out there about all this. Why are you not traveling around the world training other dentists about this? Yeah. Is this something that you've considered or you've actually done and are thinking of doing more of in the future?
Well, that's kind of whomever said that. Both Dr. Freeman and I do teach a good bit, and we love to teach, and we have dentists circulating through our office frequently, and we love to do that too.
That's great.
So, currently I'm the president of the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology, and that's a great honor, and it's a place where not only I can teach, but we have many great dentists and physicians and biochemists like Chris Shade and others who present. So I'm seeing, Kate, now this, I've been doing this part of dentistry, holistic dentistry. I thought I was a holistic dentist really all of my life, but really I've been doing it intensively in the last 12 years since I got sick. And I'm seeing a real tipping point toward not only the general public understanding that maybe the traditional Western medical model and dental model are not necessarily always the best, but I'm also seeing dentists more and more who are saying, you know what, there are other ways to skin the cat out there. There are other ways to really get a great result. I'm talking about a healthy result. And so this, our academy now is up to almost 800 members worldwide, which is fabulous.
Oh my gosh.
And when I first became a member years ago, I'm sure we probably had less than 200 members. So I'm just very encouraged by the fact that the general public, of course, the general public's been onto this longer than the dentists. And now dentists are beginning, and physicians are all beginning to appreciate there are all sorts of integrative, wonderful ways to do treatments that are not invasive and I think get a great result.
I'm really encouraged to hear that personally.
Yeah,
people are waking up a little bit.
And knowing,
I think so.
And knowing that there's a direct connection to our overall health and to our oral pathology and our oral health, I think it's one of the first places to look at if you have any health issues is to first look at your teeth.
it's a great starting point. It really is. We can identify so many systemic issues just by looking in the mouth. Or we may not be able to identify them specifically, but we'll be able to realize that there's a problem. And, one of the first things we do when we see a new patient is we take a little sample of bacteria from under the gum line and we look at that under a microscope. And from that, we can tell almost immediately whether a patient is at risk for heart attack or stroke or so many other issues. And so I think over time the tipping point is going to be reached, and we'll all, I really think, begin to pay more attention to this link between the mouth and the systemic rest of our system.
I love it.
Wow.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Nunley, for your work and for seeing us, and it's just amazing. Thank you so much for spending some time today on your day off. We really appreciate it.
Well, it was a treat for me. Thank you all so much. We look forward to seeing you back in Texas again.
We'd love it.
Will.
Hang on the line really quickly, and we're going to close out the live show. I want to thank everybody for joining us in the live show. We really appreciate it so much. And if you guys are interested in learning more about Dr. Nunley and everything that he's doing, you can go to healthysmilesforlife.com. You can also listen to our previous show with him in episode 180, which I just shared in the chat room. And I would highly recommend calling them and looking more into your financing options and seeing if there's a way that you can make this happen, because I think it's one of the most important things you could ever do for your health, your overall health, your longevity, your ability to prevent disease.
It has been for mine hugely.
Oh, it's been life-changing.
To actually feel the difference and see the difference happening before my eyes is an incredible experience.
Amazing stuff. So check out healthysmilesforlife.com and check out Dr. Nunley and Dr. Freeman, and you'll be in great hands. So I want to thank all you guys for joining us in the live show. We really appreciate it. We'll be back possibly tonight, maybe around 7 o'clock Pacific time with Nick Pelosi, but that's not for sure yet. So we'll notify you guys on Facebook if that happens. And we appreciate you being in the chat room so much. And we'll catch you.
If not, we'll catch you tomorrow.
That's right.
Bye, guys.
Enjoy your lunch with your wife.
Yes, tell her we said hello.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank
Dr.
you
Nunley.
all.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bless you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Well, that was an awesome show with Dr. Nunley, wasn't it? There was so much we didn't even get to.
Oh, my gosh.
But I want to talk a little bit more about our experience going there. I've been there twice. We went there in 2010, and then we went there just recently, last year.
We did in March of 2014.
And we got it
this year. Whoa, what's going on there?
That's the call that dropped. Let's do that.
The other call?
No, that was Dr. Nunley. So, I want to talk a little bit about this after the break, but let's do that. So we're going to be right back right after this break. So recently we had a really great doctor and author on our show, Dr. Doris Rapp, and she was on episode number 56. And she talked about these really great Austin air purifiers and the necessity of having clean air in your house. And she was talking about how inside of our houses, the air is very toxic, and it's more toxic than even outside. And the reason is because there's chemicals that are off-gassing from our paints that are in our house, our chemicals, and our carpets, and the dust and the pollen and the mold and everything else that's inside the air of our house. And we don't get good ventilation. And so having some of these air purifiers are really critical. And I spoke with her at length off the air about why she likes these Austin air purifiers and why she promotes them. And it turns out that not only do they get rid of the pollens and the allergens and the dust and the particles and everything that's floating around in your air like most purifiers do, which is great, but they also get rid of, I think, 3,000 different chemicals that are inside. They're just floating around your house. And, these things end up in our lungs and in our bloodstream and all of that kind of stuff. And Doris Rapp has been researching this kind of information for many years. I think she's in her 80s now, so she really has a handle on which products are good and which products are not so good. And she recommends the Austin Air. And after talking with her, doing a ton of research on my own, and speaking with a company and looking into it from a lot of different angles, we agree with her. So if you're interested in a good quality air purifier, check it out. You can learn more at extremehealthradio.com/Austin, and you'll be redirected to a website that will sell these things. And they're really, really great machines, and I highly recommend them. If you have a baby, you want to have these things in their room or in the room where you sleep, or you can take them out and put them in your family room. So if you want to listen to that episode, extremehealthradio.com/56 to learn what she says about them, feel free, but we highly recommend them. So it's extremehealthradio.com/Austin, or you could check out our store and learn more about it on there as well. So thanks for listening, and let's get back to the show.
All free shows, all the time, on Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Join our community today. Sign up to our email list and instantly get our free gift to you, along with loads of inspirational content and cutting-edge tips to help change your life at extremehealthradio.com/subscribe.
Oh, you got little Miss Maggie Brown Longbottom sitting on your lap.
Oh, she loves to be on my lap,
Look
yawning
at that.
away.
Yawning away.
Showing all her pearly whites.
I got to know, is yawning a dachshund thing, or is it a Maggie thing?
I can't figure it out.
Because we saw a dachshund the other day on the beach trail. We didn't see, it didn't yawn once. It didn't yawn at
Maggie
all.
would have yawned 20 times in about 2 minutes.
I know, right?
Gosh, she's a yawny little dog,
That's
isn't she?
hilarious.
It was funny. A friend posted this morning on Facebook. I showed you the funniest thing. It was a giant shark stuffed animal.
Oh, I got to post that.
Giant, with a little dachshund head sticking out of it. The dachshund was in the shark's mouth. And it said, what did it say? Oh, gosh. Hold on. Oh, shoot. I'm totally going to blow it.
No, it said something like,
You can't, something. Hold on. I'm going to find it.
I don't want to steal your thunder.
Oh, no. Do you remember?
It's something like...
make sure your teeth are healthy. You don't want to lose your canines
I just lost
or something.
a canine.
I just lost a canine.
And the little dachshund head sticking out of the shark's mouth, and it looks like the shape of a canine tooth.
It's
so funny.
I think it said go to your dentist regularly. I just lost a canine.
You know what I think I'll do? When we post this show on Facebook, I'll share it with that photo.
That would be
that?
hilarious. That is the best. That is the best photo.
Hey, so what do you think of Dr. Nunley? Awesome, right?
Oh,
Dr.
man.
Nunley and Dr. Freeman.
They're amazing. It's
They're
neat that we've
so
met
cool.
both of them and that we know them. And
I know, it's awesome. We went there in 2010. I remember it was June.
Yep, it was June. Yeah,
Because
the playoffs.
The playoffs were playing,
The
or the
NBA.
Lakers. Yeah,
Right.
They were in the championship, and so we went there in June of 2010, and I had my mercury fillings. I think I had 4 or 5 mercury fillings. Man, I had a lot.
You did have a lot.
Ooh.
I remember going, obviously, with you because I had to drive you. We stayed at a hotel. I think did we drive to San Antonio? I think we did because you didn't have any surgery.
That's
so we were
right.
able to drive back to San Antonio that night and stayed in a hotel. And you don't remember really watching even the playoff game, do you?
Not much of it, no.
But I remember you were really relaxed and you had a really decent time there. But I remember being really... The person I was then and the person I am now are two completely different things because I was pretty nervous.
Oh, really?
For you.
For me?
Yeah, I mean, I was nervous
Why?
a little for you, but I thought more I was so fearful of any kind of sedation or being put under, and the way that Dr. Freeman explained it to you, though, about the natural is more natural and they could reverse it really quickly in case you had any super rare side effects from the anesthesia, which, apparently, according to Dr. Nunley, is very, very rare.
Right.
And they can reverse it within 30 seconds. So I remember feeling more comfortable with it, but then thinking, I'm so glad it's you and not me. I don't know. If I ever come back here and get any work done, I don't want the IV. I'd rather just tough it out.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I thought if I come back here, because the office had me at hello. I was thinking, I am coming back here for everything I ever need because of how amazing the experience was to even be in the waiting room waiting for you. But I always thought, no way am I going to get an IV. I'd rather just have it because I was super, super petrified of IVs and things.
Right.
So my gosh, when we came back in this March of this year, 2014.
Oh, man.
I took that thing. Apparently I was a little nervous because Dr. Nunley, said he had to take a lot of that stuff.
What did he say on the show? He had to give you twice as much as a 200-pound man?
Or 4 times as much.
That was hilarious.
To get me to go under. But, that to me was the most pleasant part of the whole thing, was
Yeah.
waking up, like he said, in a room, that room where they do the acupressure after your surgery was like being in a day spa. I think they had some water noises. The woman, I'm blanking on her name right now, that does the acupressure.
Oh, she's a wonderful lady. I
Oh, she's
forget what
just
her
an
name is.
angel.
Yeah, I had a long talk with her. She's just amazing.
She's amazing. And you're still
she's
hooked up.
She's very, very informative. And she was talking, I remember we're talking after the acupressure about the effects, the damaging effects of blue light and cancer. And she was, getting into all the science of what the blue light does to your eyeballs. And her son, I think her son or her daughter's a PhD researcher and gives talks and presentations about this kind of stuff. And I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, this is the lady doing the acupressure, and it just was so. It's just they are so informed and so well, so much
cutting
knowledge.
edge, so on top of everything.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh man!
Do you remember waking up in that room?
I remember waking up in that room and thinking, "This is really cool." I felt like I honestly remember being walked back a little bit, like they hold your hand, they walk you back because they're pushing your IV bag, because you continue to have your vitamin C therapy after your surgery,
right.
Before, as you're getting the acupressure. And let me tell you, oh my gosh, like that was the best part. I just fell asleep and she didn't really talk much to me until I was pretty with it. And after that, they give you a little smoothie.
They make this great protein,
whey protein,
smoothie for you.
Try to get you going, and the whole experience. I mean, honestly, it's like to where I want to go back to Marble Falls just to go in and visit, to hang out in there. I just feel like you're treated like a friend. You're treated with the utmost love. You feel like you're the only patient there. That's what I felt like. And
it's funny because you walk in and you feel immediately like, okay, this place is different. And then you're kind of just waiting, you walk in and you get the feeling like, okay, you kind of look around really quick at the lobby and you think, okay, something's different about this place, but I don't know what it is really yet. And then you're almost kind of thinking like, okay, as soon as I talk to the receptionist and I talk to the people and I have my consultation, it's going to everything's going to revert back to what I think and what I think is normal for a dental office.
Very clinical
and
sterile.
There's not really much concern about you or your health. But then once you get a interaction with the receptionist and the ladies at the front desk and the doctors, Dr. Freeman and Dr. Nunley and Dr. Owens, and once you have a consultation, start talking with them, and then you put it back to how it was when you walked in, you start realizing, wow, this place really is different. It's not like your typical dentist, like it's not just window dressing when you walk in, because when you walk in, it's really nice and warm, and they have great furniture, packets of stevia instead of sugar. I mean, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
All these little touches they do.
Yeah.
But when you walk in, you sense something's different, but then when you start interacting with everybody else, it just confirms what you already know. And then the love and the warmth that they give off and they have for you.
It radiates.
And you just feel like, wow, these people really do care. And then when you go through the procedures, whether it's the mercury removal or bridges or crowns or any dental work you've done, surgeries or anything like that, you realize that in a typical dentist office, they would probably not do about 60% or 70% of the things they do for precautionary measures. You're not going to be walking around with IV bags. They're not going to make you smoothies. They're not going to give you acupressure. They're not going to pray with you before your surgery.
Or even want to see you the next day.
You the next day. They're not going to do dental swabs and look at the bacteria in your mouth under a microscope live with you and explain what's going on. Then, you start realizing, this place, these people actually care. It's amazing.
I just felt so loved. I felt so loved and so taken care of. It was almost like I'd come back to a place of self-care I hadn't known before. It's like I wanted to feel this way, but I'd never had that in any kind of medical experience in my life. So
yeah, it's very, very different. And it's funny too, because when we told our parents, because the first time we told our parents, or we told other people, our friends and family, what are you going out to Texas for? Oh, well, we're going to go and see a dentist. What?
Yeah.
We're going to go see a dentist?
Yeah, there's some right around the corner.
Yeah. You guys have some just down the street. And then it's like, well, you don't really understand.
They don't understand.
You have to listen to Dr. Freeman or Dr. Nunley talk.
Right.
And understand what's really going on. And I think if they ever do, then they'll understand why we would make a trek out there and just pay the airfare, put it on care credit, pay it off.
It is of utmost importance. Seeing, because my whole experience, like, when you got, when Dr. Nunley's office sent back reports of what was lingering in your cavitations, they said it was amazing that you came in and got this taken care of, because there was stuff that was less than good.
Well, let me tell you, it's one test has 4 and the other test has 2, and there's different, like, E. coli type of things that were in my thing, and you should see the symptoms.
Yeah, what do they have it written down?
Yeah, it's a wide variety of potentially serious infections in immune-compromised patients, cause overwhelming sepsis in the apsplenic patients, and compromised immune systems, bloody diarrhea, anemia, kidney failure, and that's not and urinary tract infections, and that's not counting infections in your heart or cancers or anything like that. And that's just one. And anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I've got 6 of these things that were tested and came back with Dr. Shade's testing. Incredible.
It's incredible to me. See, that's what's amazing, is you didn't know any of that was, quote, lurking in your body, even though you probably assumed it was better to have all that stuff out than in.
Yeah.
But to actually see it is pretty alarming, in a good wake-up call kind of way. And with me, I mean, I cannot get over the person I feel like now versus the person I felt like just a mere 7 months ago before I went on that trip, to be honest. Like, going into that trip, my organs had been hurting for years on end. I had all kinds of, those growths on my hands taking over. My immune system just shot.
Well, tell people about your experience with the morning of leaving.
Yeah, maybe for those who haven't heard, what happened is the day we were going to fly to Texas from California to get our surgeries performed by Dr. Nunley's office, it was the hardest trip to be able to get out of town. Do you remember that? It was just, everything was against us, it seemed like.
I remember that.
It was just very, very, very rough to get out of town.
We had so many issues with different things.
Yeah.
It was almost as if God or the universe was saying, I'm not letting you leave, because if I know that you guys are leaving, great things are going to happen.
Yeah, it was so crazy.
It was strange.
So the night before, it was just crazy, trying to get ready. And I thought, I'm not going to let this stop us. We're just going to go. I was very, very concerned about being on an airplane the next morning, because my pancreas had been hurting so bad, these pains just wouldn't stop. My liver area, the whole thing, I was just a mess inside the night before, and for years leading up to that, where it had just kind of come to a head where I thought, I can't live like this anymore. This is a digestion thing. I wasn't even putting 2 and 2 together with the whole tooth connection at this point, but I thought having the tooth out is just going to be a really good thing for me. Let's just get this over with. So I was praying to God that the night before we left, that I would just be able to get on that plane and just have this supernatural healing of sorts, just to get me through the air without having a pancreatic problem.
Yeah,
at this point, we didn't have the laser. We didn't have all these things that I would have felt a little more comfortable with flying.
Right, and your pancreas was...
It was through the roof bad.
You had high CA-19-9 levels and things like that.
Pretty raised, yeah. So I had good reason to be a little nervous about being up there, because I had pancreatic attacks and things where I thought that's the last place you want to be, is on a plane when you're feeling that kind of pain,
Right.
So the morning I woke up, that day we were leaving, we woke up at like 4 a.m. to get going, and for the first time in probably 2.5 years, I hadn't felt pain in my organs. Like, I actually could not feel any pain.
You just felt good.
Yeah, I thought this is what normal feels like, even if it just lasts through the air. That's all I prayed for. I'm just thankful to God. So the whole way up to the airport, I thought, okay, we're still good. I'm not feeling anything. I sat down in the airplane seat. I'm still good. The whole flight, still good. Landed, still good. Just kind of waiting, yeah. And you know what? I made it through that whole entire trip I think there was one time at Whole Foods where we were getting a green juice before our procedure, where it acted up a tiny bit, but it was gone within 10 minutes. And that was unheard of for me, because usually when I had a flare-up of sorts, these things would last for hours.
Right.
And besides that, since I have went on that trip, it was like the healing that I stepped out in faith to take that tooth out to get a benefit for my health had happened before I actually even took off on the plane. It was like my faith in the process was my healing.
Right. Which is incredible, because it
was wild.
kind of stands outside of the space-time continuum, because
It does.
your healing was almost as if God knew that you were going to get healing and healed you in advance
Right.
of it, because I mean
Right.
that had never happened before that.
Never happened.
And you were what, 5 or 4 days away from having the procedure done?
Yep. Truly.
Incredible.
It was nuts. And I feel like the tooth was just gravy at that point. Like, I feel like, wow, I'd been 80% healed. And then when I got that root canal tooth, and when Dr. Nunley spent the time praying for me for healing before, I was put under and asking about what was going on with my hand, I just really trusted at that point that something was going to change. And sure enough, within the 2 weeks after that surgery, now no one would know. No one would know I've ever had these issues, and my immune system is firing off like it should be a lot better. I'm continuing to do things to keep my, levels good and my numbers at bay, and, really get the true healing. But I think that was the turning point for me. That was the moment where it was step this way or step that way, but you can't keep going like you're going. Mm-hmm. And I chose to step, thank God, the right way. And it's been incredible. So.
Yeah, I think that it's one of the biggest things, because I think that in general, what happens is people's immune system is directly connected to the oral pathology. And if you have cavities, you have cavitations, you have root canals, you have crowns or mercury or metal in your mouth, these are all causing this low-grade systemic pressure, and it's on your immune system. And your immune system constantly has to deal with these toxins, and if your liver's not working properly, then all of a sudden you're going to be building up toxins, but you don't even feel it. And so your immune system is constantly on, it's constantly working, it's constantly under pressure. It would be sort of like going to the gym, and instead of lifting 100 pounds, you lift 10, but you just do it for 5 hours, and eventually you're going to break down. You can't do it anymore. And so that's what happens with us. And so when you have these dental infections and issues in your mouth, and you're trying to live a healthy life, don't stop living a healthy life, and don't stop drinking your green juice and all that. But I would say that it would behoove you to take care of this infection, because the way I look at it is, we put it on Care Credit and paid it off. And, it's, that to me, this whole money situation, this whole money game in the world is not real. Money just represents energy and what kind of value you're offering in the world. To me, that paying that on the credit card, that's not even that's not real. It's not physical. It's not tangible. It has nothing to do with real life in terms of anything tangible. But what you're getting, the healing is the most real thing that ever existed. It's completely real. It's completely there. And to me, no amount of money, it's just worth it. Just put it on the card, pay it off, pay $50 a month, whatever you have to pay, and reclaim your health, I think. Honestly, I agree. It's the best thing that I could have done. And, we didn't have the money to do it. So that's what we had to do. And I'm just thanking God every day that's the grace of God. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that I don't have that constant burden on my immune system anymore. And you too as well. Yeah, it's truly phenomenal. It's a miracle. Awesome stuff. I love learning about this stuff. Yeah, so check him out. Healthy Smiles for Life, Dr. Stuart Nunley and Dr. Lane Freeman. I'm going to rename them Happy Livers for Life. Happy Livers for Life. I can't believe you didn't get the barbecue sauce. That's such a disappointment. It breaks my heart, because I thought, and then I ruined it now because I wanted it to be a total surprise, because I heard a little birdie told me that he enjoyed barbecue sauce, and I felt bad for putting them on the spot now that I know that they didn't get it. I know, and they're like, barbecue sauce. What are you talking about? So we'll send him another. Sad. Of course we will. Yeah, great guy. As you can tell in the interview, an awesome man doing some great things, as well as Dr. Lane Freeman from Healthy Smiles for Life. Go check them out. Yeah, either of them. Oh my goodness, anyone at their office, I can't recommend enough. Go check them out. You're in the best hands that I could ever dream of. Yeah, it's so worth it. It's so worth it. It's taking a step in the right direction. It's telling God and telling your life that my life means something. I'm worth it. I'm going to invest in this because I've got something to offer the world, and so I just think it's really, really
Invaluable.
One of the most important things you could ever do for your health. So,
amen.
HealthySmilesForLife.com if you want to check them out. There's no financial benefit, but just let them know we told you about it and tell them hi for us. We'd appreciate that.
Give Dr. Nunley a big hug and take him a jar of barbecue sauce.
Yes.
Please do. If anyone in the area or out of the area comes across any great things, I heard that he likes trying all kinds. So.
And a little bit of red wine too.
And a good bottle of red wine. I think he would appreciate that.
Yeah. So take him that as a gift and say,
we heard about you from Justin and Kate.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
He's a good friend.
All right. It's time for us to go. I think we have to get a workout in, and then we're going to go up to get our chiropractic sessions done, and we're going to do a float tank.
Dr. Bergman, and then we're going to go see our friend Ron Becker at Newport Float.
NewportFloat.com.
We have quite a day. Oh, what a great day.
A lot of stuff going on. And we got a 10-pound weenie trying to get on the show.
Jump up on you.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. If you know anyone that might benefit from this information, please pass this show on, episode 331. And do us a favor if you can. If you can go onto iTunes, really helps us a lot. If you go over there and type and sign into iTunes, go to their store and type Extreme Health Radio, all one word. Leave us a rating and a review. That would be incredibly helpful for us, and it would help more people learn about these types of healing modalities. And the whole entire goal here is to get people to wake up and get people to understand there's other options for healing. So if you can do that, that would be awesome. We would greatly appreciate that. And if you want to support us financially, we have our Amazon link. We have our PayPal donation thing. If you want to send us a little donation, that helps pay the bills as well. And then we also have our store where you can get the sauna that we ran, the Austin Air purifiers, the Bellicon rebounders, the Biomat, all that good stuff, the laser. So check out our store as well. But consider doing the iTunes thing. That would help us a lot. And passing it on to or the show on to your friends on Facebook or something like that. That would be awesome.
Thanks, guys.
All right,
it was
everybody.
a blast as usual. And it's time to go, but we will catch you guys on the next episode.
Nice.
Hey, everybody. This is Josie, Justin's mum. Don't tell him, but I know he would absolutely be really happy if you would sign up to his free weekly newsletter. And don't forget to share this with all your friends. This is the buzzing bumblebee signing off.
That's so good.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you for listening to this episode.
It's time to go for now, but our mission does not end with this show.
Justin and Kate will be back with another interview packed full of ideas, discoveries, and unique ways to regain your health.
Head on over to extremehealthradio.com/subscribe and instantly download our free gift too that contains cutting-edge strategies to start making healthy lifestyle changes today.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine.